As I stood on the balcony of our hotel room, the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the tranquil waters of the Mediterranean. The gentle sound of waves lapping against the shore filled the air, mingling with the faint laughter of couples strolling along the beach below. This was supposed to be our anniversary trip, a celebration of 10 years of love, laughter, and shared dreams. I had envisioned this moment countless times, imagining us wrapped in each other's arms, reminiscing about our journey together, and planning for the future. The hotel was a charming little place, nestled between lush palm trees and vibrant bougainvillea. I had chosen it carefully, wanting to create an atmosphere that would rekindle the spark we once had. The room was adorned with soft linens and delicate candles, their flickering flames promising romance. I had even arranged for a bottle of champagne to be waiting for us upon arrival, a small gesture to remind her of the love we had built over the years. As I prepared for our first dinner, I couldn't help but feel a flutter of excitement in my chest. I had picked out a crisp white shirt and dark jeans, wanting to look my best for her. I imagined her smile when she saw me, the way her eyes lit up with affection. I had planned everything meticulously, from the restaurant with the breathtaking view to the moonlit walk along the beach afterward. This trip was meant to be a turning point, a chance to reconnect and reignite the passion that had dimmed over the years. But as I stood there, gazing out at the horizon, I felt a twinge of unease. It was a feeling I couldn't quite place, a whisper of doubt that crept into my mind. Had we really been as happy as I remembered? The last few months had been tumultuous, filled with arguments and misunderstandings. I had brushed it off as the stress of life, but now, standing on the precipice of what was supposed to be a romantic getaway, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. When she finally arrived, her laughter echoed through the room, and for a moment, all my worries faded away. She looked stunning in a flowing sundress that danced around her knees, her hair cascading in soft waves. I felt a rush of love and relief wash over me. Perhaps I had been overthinking things. Perhaps this trip would be the balm we needed to heal our wounds. We clinked glasses, the sound of crystal ringing in the air, and I watched as she took a sip, her eyes sparkling with delight. To us, I said, my heart swelling with hope. To many more years together. She smiled, and for a fleeting moment, I believed that everything would be all right. As we settled into our dinner, the conversation flowed easily, punctuated by laughter and shared memories. I felt the weight of the world lift off my shoulders, and I allowed myself to dream of a future filled with love and happiness. But deep down, that nagging feeling lingered, a shadow lurking just beyond my reach. Later that night, as we strolled hand in hand along the beach, the moonlight shimmering on the water, I couldn't help but steal glances at her. She seemed lost in thought, her gaze distant, as if she were somewhere else entirely. I brushed it off, attributing it to the stress of the past few months. After all, we were here now, together, and that was what mattered. But as the night wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. I felt a growing sense of unease, a whisper of doubt that gnawed at the edges of my mind. I wanted to believe that this trip would be the turning point we needed, but a part of me feared that the cracks in our relationship ran deeper than I had realized. As we returned to our hotel room, I felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps tomorrow would bring clarity, a chance to reconnect and rediscover the love that had once burned so brightly between us. Little did I know, the dawn would bring revelations that would shatter my world and force me to confront the truth I had been avoiding. The morning sun streamed through the sheer curtains, casting a soft glow across the room. I awoke to the sound of waves crashing against the shore, a soothing melody that usually brought me peace. But today, it felt different, tainted by an undercurrent of anxiety that I couldn't shake. I turned to my side, expecting to see my wife, but the bed was empty. A pang of unease shot through me as I glanced at the clock. It was already past 9. "Sarah?" I called out, my voice echoing in the stillness. No response. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, the cool tile sending a shiver up my spine. I quickly dressed, my heart racing as I made my way to the bathroom, hoping to find her there. But the mirror reflected only my worried expression. I stepped out onto the balcony, the salty breeze tousling my hair. The beach was alive with activity, families building sandcastles, couples walking hand in hand, and children laughing as they splashed in the surf. But my heart was heavy, weighed down by an inexplicable dread. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing thoughts. Perhaps she had gone for a walk, I reasoned. Maybe she just needed some time alone. After a few minutes of pacing, I decided to head downstairs for breakfast. The hotel's dining area was bustling with guests, the aroma of fresh pastries and brewed coffee filling the air. I grabbed a seat by the window, my mind still preoccupied with thoughts of Sarah. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, that the carefree atmosphere around me was a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing within. As I sipped my coffee, I pulled out my phone, scrolling through messages and emails. I was about to put it away when a notification popped up, a message from an unknown number. My heart skipped a beat as I opened it, my stomach twisting into knots. The message was brief but devastating. "I can't wait to see you tonight. Just us, like old times." I felt the world tilt beneath me, the ground shifting as the realization hit me like a punch to the gut. My breath caught in my throat, and I could hardly process what I was reading. The words blurred as my vision clouded with tears. It was unmistakable, Sarah was seeing someone else. The betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined, a jagged knife twisting in my chest. I stumbled out of my chair, the chair scraping loudly against the tile floor, drawing the attention of nearby diners. I rushed back to our room, my heart pounding in my ears. Each step felt heavier than the last, the weight of the truth pressing down on me. I needed to confront her, to demand answers, but a part of me was terrified of what I might find. When I reached the room, I hesitated for a moment, my hand hovering over the doorknob. I could hear the faint sound of her laughter from inside, a sound that had once filled me with joy but now felt like a cruel mockery. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation that lay ahead. I pushed the door open, and there she was, Sarah, sitting on the edge of the bed, her phone in hand, a smile lighting up her face. But the moment she saw me, her expression shifted, the joy replaced by a look of panic. "Oh, I didn't hear you come in," she stammered, quickly putting her phone down. "Who are you texting?" I asked, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, a mix of anger and betrayal coursing through my veins. Her eyes widened, and for a moment, she looked like a deer caught in headlights. "It was just a friend," she replied, her voice faltering. "I was just a friend?" I interrupted, my heart racing. "Is that what you call him? Because I just received a message that suggests otherwise." The color drained from her face, and I could see the realization dawning on her. "I can explain," she said, her voice trembling. But I wasn't interested in explanations. I wanted the truth, raw and unfiltered. "Explain what, Sarah? That you've been seeing someone else while we're supposed to be celebrating our anniversary?" My voice cracked, the pain spilling over. "How long has this been going on?" She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. The silence stretched between us, heavy and suffocating. I felt my heart shatter, each piece falling away as the reality of her betrayal settled in. I had trusted her, loved her, and she had thrown it all away for someone else. "I can't believe you would do this to me," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "After everything we've been through?" Tears welled in her eyes, and for a moment, I thought she might reach out to me, to apologize, to beg for forgiveness. But instead, she looked away, her gaze drifting to the floor. "I'm so sorry," she finally said, her voice breaking. "I didn't mean for it to happen." "Didn't mean for it to happen?" I echoed, incredulous. "You made a choice, Sarah. You chose him over me." The weight of her betrayal hung in the air, suffocating and unbearable. I felt a surge of anger rise within me, a fire igniting in my chest. I had come here to celebrate our love, to rekindle the connection we once had, and instead, I was faced with the harsh reality of her infidelity. In that moment, I realized I had a choice to make. I could wallow in despair, allow her betrayal to define me, or I could reclaim my life. I could turn this trip into something entirely different, something that was mine alone. "Pack your things," I said, my voice steady and resolute. "I'm leaving. You can stay here if you want, but I won't be part of the charade any longer." Her eyes widened in shock, and for a moment, I thought she might protest. But instead, she simply nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. I turned away, my heart heavy but my resolve firm. I would not let her betrayal break me. I would take this trip and make it my own. The air in the room felt thick with tension as I turned my back on Sarah, my heart pounding in my chest. I could hear her soft sobs behind me, but I refused to let them sway me. I had spent too long trying to hold on to a love that was slipping through my fingers, and now, I was done. I needed to reclaim my life, my happiness, and this trip was going to be the catalyst for that transformation. I moved to the closet, my hands shaking slightly as I began to pack my belongings. Each item I folded and placed into my suitcase felt like a small victory, a step toward liberation. I could hear Sarah's muffled cries, but I focused on the task at hand, determined to create a new narrative for myself. I was no longer the betrayed husband, I was a man taking control of his destiny. As I zipped up my suitcase, I glanced at the bed where Sarah sat, her expression a mix of regret and disbelief. "You can't just leave," she said, her voice trembling. "We can talk about this. We can fix it." "Fix what?" I shot back, my anger flaring again. "You've already made your choice. You've chosen him over me. What's left to fix?" I felt a surge of bitterness rise within me, but I pushed it down. I didn't want to be consumed by anger, I wanted to be empowered. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "It was a mistake. I love you, I really do." "Love?" I scoffed, the word tasting bitter on my tongue. "You don't get to say that after what you've done. Love isn't just a word, it's an action. And your actions have spoken volumes." I could see the hurt in her eyes, but I refused to let it sway me. I had spent too long trying to understand her, trying to make excuses for her behavior. Now, it was time to focus on myself. I had to remind myself that I was worthy of love and respect, and I would not settle for anything less. With my suitcase packed, I took a deep breath and walked toward the door. "I'm going to make the most of this trip, Sarah. I'm going to enjoy myself, and I'm going to find a way to heal from this." I paused, looking back at her one last time. "You can stay here and wallow in your choices, but I refuse to be a part of it." As I stepped out of the room, I felt a strange mix of emotions swirling within me, anger, sadness, but also a burgeoning sense of freedom. I was stepping into the unknown, but for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of hope. I was no longer defined by my relationship with Sarah, I was reclaiming my identity. The hotel lobby was bustling with activity, the sounds of laughter and chatter filling the air. I felt like an outsider, a ghost wandering through a world that had once felt familiar. But as I walked through the lobby, I held my head high, determined to embrace this new chapter of my life. I stepped outside into the warm sunlight, the salty breeze wrapping around me like a comforting embrace. The beach stretched out before me, inviting and beautiful. I took a moment to breathe it all in, allowing the fresh air to fill my lungs. This was my moment, my opportunity to rediscover who I was outside of my marriage. I decided to take a walk along the shoreline, the sand warm beneath my feet. Each step felt like a release, a shedding of the weight I had carried for so long. I watched as the waves crashed against the shore, their rhythmic ebb and flow mirroring the tumult of my emotions. I was reminded that life, like the ocean, was unpredictable and ever-changing. As I walked, I began to reflect on the past 10 years. I thought about the moments of joy we had shared, the laughter that had once filled our home, and the dreams we had built together. But those memories were now tainted by betrayal, and I realized that I needed to let them go. I couldn't hold on to the past if I wanted to move forward. I found a quiet spot on the beach, away from the crowds, and sat down on the warm sand. I closed my eyes, allowing the sound of the waves to wash over me. I focused on my breathing, inhaling deeply and exhaling slowly. With each breath, I felt the tension begin to melt away, replaced by a sense of clarity. In that moment of solitude, I made a promise to myself. I would not let this betrayal define me. I would take this trip and turn it into a journey of self-discovery. I would explore the beauty of this place, meet new people, and embrace the freedom that came with being alone. I would reclaim my happiness, piece by piece. As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, painting the horizon in hues of orange and pink, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. I was ready to embrace this new chapter, to find joy in the unexpected. I would not allow Sarah's choices to dictate my future. I was determined to forge my own path, one that led to healing and empowerment. With renewed resolve, I stood up and brushed the sand off my legs. I was ready to explore, to discover what this trip had in store for me. I would make the most of my time here, and I would emerge stronger than ever. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the beach as I set off to explore the vibrant town that lay just beyond the hotel. I felt a sense of liberation wash over me, a feeling I hadn't experienced in years. With each step, I was shedding the remnants of my old life, the weight of betrayal slowly lifting from my shoulders. I was no longer the husband left behind, I was a man on a journey to rediscover himself. As I wandered through the narrow cobblestone streets, I marveled at the colorful buildings adorned with blooming flowers. The air was filled with the tantalizing aroma of fresh bread and spices, and I could hear the distant sound of laughter and music. It was a stark contrast to the heaviness I had felt just hours before, and I welcomed it with open arms. I stopped at a small cafe, its outdoor seating shaded by vibrant umbrellas. The menu was filled with local delicacies, and I decided to indulge in a slice of rich chocolate cake and a cup of strong coffee. As I sat there, savoring each bite, I couldn't help but notice the couples around me, their laughter ringing in the air. A pang of sadness flickered within me, but I quickly pushed it aside. I was here to embrace my solitude, to find joy in my own company. After finishing my dessert, I decided to explore the local shops. I wandered in and out of boutiques, admiring handmade crafts and unique souvenirs. I felt a sense of freedom in choosing what to buy, what to admire, and what to leave behind. Each item I picked up was a reminder that I was reclaiming my identity, one small piece at a time. As I strolled through the market, I struck up conversations with the vendors, their warm smiles and friendly banter lifting my spirits. I learned about their crafts, their families, and their lives in this beautiful town. It was refreshing to connect with people who had no knowledge of my past, who saw me as just another traveler seeking adventure. One vendor, an elderly woman with twinkling eyes, sold handmade jewelry. She noticed my interest in a delicate silver bracelet adorned with a small charm shaped like a wave. "This one brings good fortune," she said, her voice warm and inviting. "It reminds you to go with the flow, just like the ocean." I smiled, feeling a connection to her words. I purchased the bracelet, slipping it onto my wrist as a symbol of my commitment to embrace whatever came next. It felt like a talisman, a reminder that I was capable of navigating the unpredictable waters of life. As the day turned to dusk, I found myself drawn to the beach once more. The sky was painted in shades of purple and gold, the sun dipping below the horizon in a breathtaking display. I walked along the shoreline, the cool water lapping at my feet, and I felt a sense of peace settle over me. This was my moment, my time to reflect and heal. I sat down on the sand, watching as the waves rolled in and out, their rhythm soothing my restless heart. I thought about Sarah and the life we had built together. I had loved her fiercely, but now I understood that love alone wasn't enough to sustain a relationship. Trust, respect, and honesty were the foundations that held it all together, and those had been shattered. In that moment of reflection, I realized that I had been so focused on trying to save our marriage that I had lost sight of myself. I had neglected my own needs, my own desires, in the hopes of keeping the peace. But now, I was reclaiming my voice, my autonomy. I was learning to prioritize my own happiness. As the stars began to twinkle overhead, I felt a sense of hope blossom within me. I was ready to embrace this new chapter of my life, to explore the possibilities that lay ahead. I would not allow the pain of betrayal to define me. Instead, I would use it as fuel to propel me forward. The next day, I decided to take a day trip to a nearby island. I booked a ferry ticket and set off early in the morning, the excitement bubbling within me. The island was known for its stunning beaches and breathtaking views, and I was eager to immerse myself in its beauty. As the ferry glided across the water, I felt a sense of exhilaration wash over me. The wind whipped through my hair, and I closed my eyes, allowing the salty air to fill my lungs. I was free, unburdened by the weight of my past. I was ready to embrace whatever adventures awaited me. Upon arriving at the island, I was greeted by the sight of pristine beaches and lush greenery. I spent the day exploring, hiking along scenic trails, and swimming in the crystal-clear waters. Each moment felt like a celebration of my newfound freedom, a reminder that I was capable of finding joy on my own. As the sun began to set, I found a quiet spot on the beach to watch the horizon. The sky was ablaze with color, and I felt a sense of gratitude wash over me. I was learning to appreciate the beauty of solitude, to find strength in my independence. I was no longer defined by my relationship with Sarah. I was carving out my own path. That night, as I lay in bed, I reflected on the day's adventures. I felt a sense of peace settle over me, a quiet confidence that I hadn't felt in years. I was ready to embrace the unknown, to explore the depths of my own heart and soul. I would not let fear hold me back. I would forge ahead with courage and determination. Tomorrow would bring new opportunities, new experiences, and I was ready to seize them all. I was reclaiming my life, one step at a time, and I couldn't wait to see where this journey would take me. The sun rose the next morning, casting a golden light over the island as I awoke to the sound of waves gently crashing against the shore. I stretched, feeling the warmth of the sun on my skin, and took a moment to appreciate the beauty surrounding me. This place, with its vibrant colors and soothing sounds, had become a sanctuary, a refuge from the pain of betrayal that had once consumed me. As I prepared for the day, I felt a sense of anticipation bubbling within me. I had spent the last few days exploring, but today, I wanted to delve deeper into my own thoughts and emotions. I needed to reflect on everything that had happened, to process the whirlwind of feelings that had swept through me since discovering Sarah's infidelity. After breakfast, I found a quiet spot on the beach, away from the bustling crowds. I settled onto the warm sand, the grains slipping between my fingers as I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I focused on the sound of the waves, allowing their rhythm to guide me into a meditative state. I wanted to confront the emotions I had been avoiding, the anger, the sadness, and the lingering sense of betrayal. As I sat there, I began to visualize my relationship with Sarah. I saw the moments of joy, the laughter, the shared dreams, the love that had once felt so vibrant. But alongside those memories, I also saw the cracks that had formed over time, the misunderstandings, the arguments, and ultimately, the betrayal. It was a painful realization, but it was also liberating. I understood now that I had been holding on to an idealized version of our relationship, one that no longer existed. I allowed myself to feel the anger that had been simmering beneath the surface. I was angry at Sarah for her choices, for the way she had shattered our trust. But more importantly, I was angry at myself for allowing it to happen, for neglecting my own needs in the pursuit of keeping the peace. I had sacrificed my own happiness for the sake of our marriage, and that was a lesson I would carry with me moving forward. As the waves lapped at the shore, I felt the weight of my emotions begin to lift. I was no longer a victim of circumstance. I was a survivor, a man who had faced betrayal and emerged stronger. I realized that I had the power to shape my own narrative, to redefine what love and happiness meant to me. With each breath, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. I was ready to let go of the past, to release the pain that had held me captive for too long. I envisioned myself standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to leap into the unknown. It was terrifying, but it was also exhilarating. I was ready to embrace the future, whatever it may hold. After my reflection, I decided to take a walk along the beach, the sand warm beneath my feet. I felt lighter, as if a burden had been lifted from my shoulders. I was no longer defined by my relationship with Sarah. I was reclaiming my identity, one step at a time. As I walked, I noticed a group of people gathered around a small bonfire, their laughter and chatter filling the air. I felt a pull toward them, a desire to connect with others and share in their joy. I approached the group, and they welcomed me with open arms, inviting me to join in their festivities. The evening was filled with laughter, stories, and shared experiences. I found myself opening up to these strangers, sharing my journey and the lessons I had learned along the way. They listened with empathy, their support reminding me that I was not alone in my struggles. It was a beautiful reminder of the power of human connection, of the strength that comes from sharing our stories. As the night wore on, I felt a sense of belonging that I hadn't experienced in a long time. I was surrounded by people who understood the complexities of life, who had faced their own challenges and emerged stronger. In that moment, I realized that I was not defined by my past. I was a tapestry woven from both joy and pain, and each thread contributed to the person I was becoming. As the fire crackled and the stars twinkled overhead, I felt a sense of hope blossom within me. I was ready to embrace the future, to explore new possibilities and forge new connections. I would not let fear hold me back. I would step into the unknown with courage and determination. The next morning, I woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. I had spent the last few days reflecting on my past, but now it was time to look forward. I wanted to explore not just the beauty of the island, but also the depths of my own heart and soul. I was ready to embrace the journey of self-discovery, to uncover the passions and dreams that had been buried beneath the weight of my marriage. I decided to take a class in pottery, something I had always wanted to try but had never found the time for. As I entered the studio, I felt a rush of excitement. The smell of clay and the sound of laughter filled the air, and I was eager to dive into this new experience. I spent the day shaping and molding the clay, losing myself in the creative process. It was liberating to express myself in a way that felt authentic and true. As I worked, I reflected on the lessons I had learned during this trip. I had discovered the importance of self-love, of prioritizing my own happiness. I had learned that it was okay to let go of the past, to release the pain that had held me captive for too long. And most importantly, I had learned that I was capable of finding joy and fulfillment on my own. By the end of the day, I had created a small vase, imperfect but beautiful in its own right. I held it in my hands, admiring the way the light danced across its surface. It was a symbol of my journey, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, I could create something beautiful. As I left the studio, I felt a sense of pride swell within me. I was no longer the man defined by betrayal. I was a man on a journey of self-discovery, ready to embrace whatever the future held. I had reclaimed my life, and I was excited to see where this new path would lead me. The sun was setting on my final day on the island, casting a warm glow over the landscape as I stood on the beach, the waves gently lapping at my feet. I took a deep breath, inhaling the salty air, and felt a sense of peace wash over me. This trip had transformed me in ways I never could have imagined. I had come here to escape the pain of betrayal, but I was leaving with a renewed sense of self and a heart full of hope. As I watched the sun dip below the horizon, I reflected on the journey I had undertaken. I had faced the harsh reality of my marriage, confronted the emotions I had been avoiding, and ultimately emerged stronger. I had learned to embrace my solitude, to find joy in my own company, and to prioritize my own happiness. I was no longer defined by my relationship with Sarah. I was reclaiming my identity, one step at a time. The lessons I had learned during this trip would stay with me long after I returned home. I understood now that love was not just about shared experiences, it was about trust, respect, and mutual support. I had given so much of myself to my marriage, but I had neglected my own needs in the process. I was determined to change that moving forward. As I prepared to leave the island, I felt a sense of gratitude for the experiences I had shared and the people I had met. The connections I had forged during my time here reminded me of the beauty of human relationships, of the strength that comes from sharing our stories and supporting one another. I was ready to embrace new friendships and explore new opportunities, to step into the unknown with courage and determination. On the ferry ride back to the mainland, I took a moment to reflect on my time on the island. I had faced my fears, confronted my pain, and emerged stronger than ever. I was ready to reclaim my life, to pursue my passions, and to embrace the future with open arms. I would not let the shadows of my past dictate my happiness. I was ready to forge my own path. When I returned home, I felt a sense of empowerment that I hadn't experienced in years. I was no longer the man who had been left behind. I was a man who had taken control of his destiny. I had learned to prioritize my own happiness, and I was determined to carry that lesson with me. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. I took up new hobbies, reconnected with old friends, and explored new interests. I found joy in the little things, cooking new recipes, going for long walks, and immersing myself in books that had long been neglected. I was rediscovering who I was outside of my marriage, and it felt liberating. I also took the time to reflect on my relationship with Sarah. I understood that while our love had once been beautiful, it had become tainted by betrayal. I had loved her fiercely, but I had also learned that love alone wasn't enough to sustain a relationship. Trust and respect were the foundations that held it all together, and those had been shattered. I knew that I needed to let go of the past, to release the pain that had held me captive for too long. One evening, as I sat on my balcony watching the sunset, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. I had faced the darkness, confronted my fears, and emerged stronger. I was ready to move forward, to embrace the future with open arms. I would not let fear hold me back. I would step into the unknown with courage and determination. In the months that followed, I continued to grow and evolve. I sought therapy to help me process my emotions and gain clarity on my journey. I learned to set boundaries, to prioritize my own needs, and to embrace the beauty of solitude. I was no longer defined by my past. I was a man on a journey of self-discovery, ready to embrace whatever the future held. As I moved forward, I felt a sense of hope blossom within me. I was ready to explore new possibilities, to forge new connections, and to embrace the beauty of life. I had reclaimed my happiness, and I was determined to carry that lesson with me. In the end, I realized that betrayal had not broken me, it had transformed me. I had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, ready to embrace the light. I was no longer the man who had been left behind. I was a man who had taken control of his destiny, ready to forge my own path. As I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. I was ready to embrace the future, to explore the depths of my own heart and soul. I would not let the shadows of my past dictate my happiness. I was ready to step into the unknown with courage and determination. And with that, I opened my eyes to the horizon, ready to embrace whatever adventures awaited me. The journey was just beginning, and I was excited to see where it would lead.